Welcome to the Wealthy Life Podcast. I'm Sybil Verch, and today we're going to be talking about building wealth as a young adult. They don't teach this in school. We encourage our kids to pursue post-secondary education, go to university, get a good job, build a great career so you can live a successful life. But I don't think we do a very good job of teaching our kids about money. When to start saving, how much to save, how to invest, what kind of accounts to open to save for retirement or to buy a first home. So I'm excited because today we have Cailyn Wolski, wealth advisor with Raymond James, joining us, and she's going to share some fantastic tips on how to build financial success and build wealth as a young adult. Cailyn, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I'm going to kick it off with my standard first question, which is, what does living a wealthy life mean to you?
I think living a wealthy life really to me means making sure that I can do what I want while I'm young and really enjoy the money that I work really hard for, but I'm still protected in the future and planning for what I want my future to look like. So current me and future me can really enjoy everything that I've worked for through my working years.
Oh, I love that. I wish everyone thought like that. I don't know if the average young person thinks that way about the future, if it's more about now. How do you think the average young person, young adult in their 20s or early 30s would look at wealth?
I think it's very different than how our parents looked at it or our grandparents looked at it. I think there's so much uncertainty right now around what the world's going to look like in 10 years and 15 years and 20 years. So I think there is more of an emphasis on enjoying the now while still focusing on that risk management aspect of making sure that you have money in the bank, making sure that you have plans in place in the event that something unforeseen happens, which obviously many of us in our generation have all experienced with COVID, with things like that, and some of the geopolitical stuff going on.
Well, I can relate back to when I was a young adult just a few years ago.
Yeah.
And I remember the most important thing at the beginning for me was having adequate income just to live, to put a roof over my head and food on the table. I was a good saver, not surprising, and always squirreled away a little bit of money, but it was harder when you're younger and there's more bills and paying for education and saving for a down payment, all those things come into play. And it's interesting as we age, as each decade goes by, wealth, I think, does evolve and starts meaning different things.
Yeah.
Our health becomes more important. The social element and aspect of our lives becomes most important. But money is a common thread, no matter if you're young or old.
It is. I remember getting told when I was younger, you often hear like, money's the root of all evil, but really lack of money is what causes a lot of issues and a lot of strain on people. Yes. And I think that's one of the things that we're seeing with the younger generation and those Gen Z millennials now going into I think it's called the I generation or things like that, is really the cost of living pressures that are on them. Housing's become so unaffordable in many of the major cities that they are really striving for that higher and higher income, and incomes really that our parents, they reached at the peak of their careers are now you're trying to get there as fast as possible so that you're able to afford the house, start planning for the future, take the vacations and things like that.
Well, I even noticed that from a hiring perspective when we're trying to bring in new young talent right out of university. Some of the expectations are a little bit unrealistic for a junior entry-level position. So what's the mindset of young adults versus what does the mindset need to be to really build wealth?
I think a lot of young adults really view, I have enough money, I'm making six figures, I'm good. But really the problem is your income doesn't equal wealth. Wealth is what you build over time. Your income is what you make on your paycheck. And then what you do with that paycheck is what's going to increase wealth. I think sometimes those two things can be put together and not seen as two things separate. And really, you make $1 million and you spend $1.1 million, you're still broke. So you really need to put things in place so that you are building wealth as your income builds, rather than spending meeting what you're making.
Oh, that's good advice. And I know at lower income levels, minimum wage, maybe making $36,000 a year Canadian, it's going to be a lot harder to build wealth at that income level. But you're right, some people, when they get high income, they may become high spenders.
Yeah.
And that is equally as awful.
Yes, absolutely. And I think as people get higher incomes, they think they can spend more. And then all of a sudden they start to get to 45, 50, and now retirement's kind of looming, and they go, oh no, now I should start. But really starting younger, even if it's $25 a paycheck, $50 a paycheck, whatever you can do, really is going to make such a difference in the long run. It's better to start younger and save less per paycheck than start later and just try and put large chunks in all at once.
It's easier that way.
Yeah.
And your money, you get the benefit of compounding growth over time.
Yeah.
What percentage or how much of people's income should be set aside for savings?
Ideally, depends on what you're saving for, but retirement, we're normally looking at about that 20% or so is kind of the rule of thumb. That being said, a lot of times that can feel like a really, really shocking number if you haven't saved before, or if you are minimum wage or a lower income earner. So what I try and do and what I suggest is take it in stages. The earlier you're starting, the more time you have. So maybe 20% feels too daunting right at the beginning. So start with 10% of your income. And then each year step up, have an annual review, look at it and go, okay, can I do a little bit more? Or come tax time and you get a tax return, can I add that into my savings? It doesn't have to be an all or nothing strategy, really focusing on, okay, is there a step up approach that I can do to hit that 20% or above for savings?
And I think you touched on a really important point, which is automatic as well.
Yeah.
Like keep it automatic, make sure that you just do it. Have you ever helped people set up a savings plan that is beyond their comfort level? And how did that work out?
I have helped people set up savings plans that were maybe beyond their comfort level because they hadn't really saved before. And I think it's important for people to understand, are you a saver or are you a spender? If you are a spender, I highly recommend an automatic savings plan. I'm a spender. I have an automatic savings plan. It's like a bill payment. It goes out. I don't even see it. And what I find a lot of times is when I help set up these savings plans that maybe feel a bit aggressive, a little bit daunting, most of them will hang in there and they'll try and figure out new ways. One of the really important things I think is always to do a cash flow worksheet. And what's really great about that is they can see where their money's going and maybe where they can allocate a little bit more to spending, spend a little bit less on other areas, or allocate more to savings, sorry.
Yep.
And then with that, a lot of times they're actually really comfortable with it by the end of the year. And what's really fun is then they get to see how much they've saved. And they're like, oh, wait, it is working.
And it's motivating.
It's motivating. The ball kind of gets rolling. And yeah, it makes a huge difference.
do it.
Just do it. Just start.
Well, it's like people when they go on a diet and they lose the first 5 or 10 pounds, and then they're so excited and motivated that they keep going. But if you started a diet and you didn't see any results right away, it might be a little deflating.
It is.
And so at the beginning, you have to just have the discipline.
Exactly.
And trust. Like this will work. Just do it, build it, and then over time, you're going to see.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I love that. Now, saving isn't enough though.
No.
So even for the person who can take 10 or 20% of their income and put it into savings, how does that money grow? Do they save it? Do they invest it? What's the difference?
Yeah, so savings is great. That's a great place to start. But really, in order for your money to grow, to maintain pace with inflation and taxes, you do have to be investing in the market. What and how you invest is going to depend on lots of different factors, like what's suitable, what your goals are for various investments, and so on. But really, you want to be in the market. And when you're younger, you do have that ability to be a bit more aggressive because you have a longer time horizon to when you're going to need the funds, depending on the account type.
Okay, so think of the young adult who knows nothing about investing and is scared to invest in the stock markets.
Yeah.
What do you tell them?
Really, what you have to know is the markets go up and down. Nobody has a crystal ball. No one knows what's going to happen, but history does repeat itself. So yes, we'll have market corrections, but markets are going to go back up. What's important though is if you can mitigate risks in certain ways, then do that. You don't need to take unnecessary risks. So for example, if you're planning for retirement and you're 30, well, you have 35 years of riding out market volatility.
Yeah.
Now, if you're planning to buy a house, though, in the next 2 to 3 years, an account being used for a house probably shouldn't go into the market because it's going to be too volatile and you need that money there in 2 to 3 years when you want to use it. So really what you want to look at is if you're planning on that long term, look at your asset allocation, make sure you're diversifying, and really talk to some professionals if you're not 100% sure what to do or you're a little bit nervous. They're going to be able to walk you through it.
Okay, so not all young adults will even know what asset allocation means.
Yes.
Why don't you explain that?
Yeah, so asset allocation is the mix of what's invested in fixed income or cash equivalents, what's invested in the stock market, and then how that's diversified across regions in the world.
Right. So if you're going to invest in Canadian companies, U.S. companies, international companies.
Exactly.
Bonds, stocks, a nice mix of the two.
High rate savings, things like that.
Yeah. And I like what you said about the goal setting piece, because I have also seen some young adults get too aggressive with their money.
Absolutely.
I think my son has asked me this a few times. So he's thinking, well, yes, I'd like to maybe buy a new vehicle in a year or two, and he wants to buy stocks with his money.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you can, and it may work out really well for you, but if when you want to pull that money out in a year or two, if we're in a down market and you're down 20, 30%, are you going to be happy or mad at that decision?
And I think that's one of the mistakes a lot of young investors make, is that trend chasing or trying to be too aggressive, or they hear, oh, I'm young, I can be aggressive. And that's not necessarily always true for all investors. And it really depends. Like in my personal case, my RRSP and TFSA are quite aggressive because I'm young, I have a long time till retirement, and I don't need that money for a very long time.
Yeah.
But my first time home savers account, which is an awesome account we'll talk about in a second, I need it in the next 5 years likely, which means I'm going to keep it in something safe. I want to know that it's there. It'll grow slowly with some interest income, but it's not going to be subject to market fluctuation. And so I know it's there, and I'm confident that that money will be there when I need it.
Okay, well, let's jump into account types, because you brought it up and it's an important thing to talk about. An account type versus the investment in the account. I think first explain that.
Yeah, so your account type is things like an RRSP, a TFSA, a FHSA, and what can go into those accounts are things like exchange traded funds, individual equities, fixed income, bonds, high rate savings, cash can go into those accounts. So that's the investment that can go into the account. The account itself is the title, and then depending on the account, the preferential tax treatment.
It's just the wrapper.
Yeah,
and I think so many people get this wrong, and they think my TFSA account only pays X percent.
Yeah.
Because they're just thinking it's a type of a savings account. Well, it is a type of savings account, but it can hold, it's like a bucket that can hold all kinds of different investments.
Exactly.
So how you invest it is based on your time horizon and what you're going to use that money for and when. And then your risk profile.
Exactly.
Okay, so tell us about the different types of accounts that every young adult should have open.
Yeah, so I think the most important one, especially for Canadians who want to buy a home, or even if you don't, because it's a good planning tool, is the First Time Home Savers account. It's a relatively new investment account to Canada. And what's really cool about this account is it is tax preferred on both the income going in and the income coming out when used to purchase a qualifying home. So any income that you put into the account, you get a tax deduction on. And then any contributions withdrawn to purchase a qualifying principal residence in Canada can be withdrawn tax-free.
Great. So I put $5,000 in, I'm going to get a $5,000 tax deduction. It's going to grow tax-free while it's in there, tax-deferred, tax-free. I can pull it out tax-free as long as I use it to buy a qualifying home.
Exactly. But say that ends up not happening. You choose not to purchase a home, or, life gets in the way and it doesn't happen. The account can be open for 15 years. If you hit that 15-year mark and you haven't purchased a principal residence, it can then be rolled over into your registered retirement savings plan, or your RRSP, without affecting the contribution room, and it can stay tax deferred and tax sheltered until you start withdrawing during retirement.
So even if someone wasn't thinking about buying a home ever, maybe they're happy renting, should they open a first-time home saver account?
Absolutely.
And why is that?
Because there's no disadvantage to having it open. You're able to invest in the same products that you can in an RRSP. It essentially is going to give you extra contribution room in your RRSP and have additional tax benefits from that perspective.
Yeah, and if you roll it to your RRSP, the only downside is later in life when you pull it out, you have to pay a little bit of tax on it.
Yeah, and then jumping into what the RRSP is.
Hold on, before you go RRSP, how much money can they put in the first-time home saver account?
They can put in up to $40,000. It's $8,000 per year, up to a maximum of $40,000 lifetime.
Okay, so that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now you can go on to the RRSP.
So the RRSP is your Registered Retirement Savings Plan. And this plan, you earn contribution room based on your income. It's based on 18% of your income up to a maximum threshold that's set each year by the Canadian government. With this account, what's great is you get a tax deduction on any contributions made. And the idea is that you're contributing during your higher income earning years, and then you're able to withdraw it in retirement, and hopefully maybe at a lower tax bracket, depending on
I don't know. I hope I'm in a higher tax
That's
bracket.
true. That's true. So sometimes from that perspective, it's not, but
most people are not.
Yeah.
And even if you are, you've got all that tax deferred growth over your lifetime. So it's still great.
Exactly.
And it's you're not going to touch it. It's put aside. You need to have money for retirement.
Yeah.
I know it seems so far away, but if you start young, you get compounding growth. It's just less stressful.
Well, and one of the benefits of the RRSP is there actually are some other programs through it that the Canadian government has available that can be utilized by young adults. So things like the home buyer plan. If lots of people, their RRSP through their employer, where there's a matching program, which is free money, so everyone should sign up for those.
Okay, hold on, slow down. Let's talk about the home buyer plan.
Yeah.
So you've got money in your RRSP, you've got a first-time home savers account, and now you're wanting to buy your first home.
Yeah, so say you have, a large RRSP, you can withdraw up to $60,000 of it, not pay tax on it, assuming that you then pay it back starting, I believe it's 2 years after you've purchased the home or made the withdrawal, and then you have 15 years to pay it back to your RRSP, or else it gets taxed as income at your tax rate.
Right, so you can borrow from your RRSP for a down payment on a home. Another reason to get your RRSP going.
Yep, absolutely.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, carry on.
Yeah, so the RRSP, for many young Canadians, that actually might be your largest investment account that you have, because with your employer, you often will have matching programs for your RRSP. So they'll match maybe 6% of your income, 4% of your income, or what your contributions are based on your income.
Okay, I know there's a lot of people that miss out on that.
Yeah.
Employers offer this matching program, and either the employee forgot, didn't think they could afford to save that much, whatever the case may be, it's free money.
Yeah.
If it's a matching program, it's like getting 100% return on your money every year. You got to make that a priority, I think it would be your advice.
You absolutely do. And things like, one of the really good ways that I've seen people do it is they allocate their bonuses, if you get bonuses at your company, to it.
Yeah.
Instead of, maybe it feels too much coming off of the paycheck, allocate your bonuses. Most companies allow you to do that. And it's a really, really good way to beef up that RRSP each year, and it doesn't feel like it's coming off of your regular paycheck.
So how do they know if their company has a program like that?
So normally when you start at a company, you get a massive package that shows you all of the benefits, and it's super overwhelming.
Yeah.
That can sometimes be a bit daunting. Maybe you've thrown that package out, depending, right? Or
filed it deep.
File it deep. It's somewhere stuck in an old email from when you first started. So really, you can reach out to your HR department. Lots of them have their benefits team, and they'll be able to walk you through it and help you get set up.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So we've got the first time, the RRSP. Let's talk about the tax-free savings account.
The TFSA, yeah. So the TFSA is a great account. It's one of those accounts that's, it's special in a way that it can help you prepare for retirement. It's very tax advantageous. There's no tax deductions on any contributions made, so it's considered after-tax dollars contributed. However, anything you withdraw from it, you can withdraw it tax-free. So it's a really great option for things like your high-growth investments, your investments that have interest income associated with them, because interest is fully taxable. There's no tax advantages to interest income earned.
In a regular account.
In a regular account, sorry. Yeah, so that's why having it in a TFSA is always a great option. I like TFSAs for emergency funds because, again, you can put high rate savings that earns interest in there, and there's no tax consequences to that. So yeah, it's a great option. I used my TFSA. I started it right at 18 or 19, and I used it to fund my master's degree, and now I've been able to start recontributing back into it, which is one of the other advantages of it, is when you take funds out, you can recontribute.
Right, so you put money in, no tax deduction, but it grows tax-free, and you can pull it out at any point in time, tax-free. And once you withdraw the money, in a later year, if you have money again to put back in, you can put the same amount back in that you took out.
Exactly, yeah. Whereas the RRSP is different. You can't recontribute if you've withdrawn anything from it.
Right. And usually, hopefully, most people are not touching those RRSP monies until they retire.
Exactly.
Except if you're buying a house and want to take advantage of the home buyer plan.
Correct. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about just a regular investment account and how that's different from the accounts that you just talked about.
Yeah, so a regular investment account or a non-registered investment account, so it's a non-tax preferential investment account. Again, those accounts would normally be the last accounts you would start using after you've maxed out the registered plans that have tax treatments. But really these accounts, again, they can be invested in all the same things that the other accounts can be, but they're fully subject to taxation, whatever that may be. So for example, interest income is fully taxable as income at your marginal tax rate. Capital gains has a 50% tax rate or tax inclusion rate on it. So say you have a gain of $10,000, $5,000 of that is going to be taxable in your hands.
Which may change. That's where it's at right
Which
now.
may change,
but
yeah.
the government,
So
who knows?
Who knows? Yep. And then with dividend income, there is a tax credit available if it's a Canadian corporation dividend paid out. So there's different tax treatment depending on the income. If those incomes are generated in the registered accounts, then
you don't have to pay tax on it each year. Which is great.
Yeah.
Okay, so people should start with those other accounts first.
Yeah.
If you're a young adult, which of the three, first-time home saver, tax-free savings account, RSP, and what are some of the deciding factors that come into play?
Yeah, I think normally my recommendation would be looking at the FHSA first because a huge goal of most young Canadians is to be able to purchase a home. There's no downside to opening it. Start getting the ball rolling on it. The next one I would recommend normally would be the tax-free savings account, but the deciding factor would be what's your income.
Right.
Because if you're looking for additional tax deductions to bring down your income, the RRSP will be more tax preferential.
But if you're really early career and your income isn't high yet, you're still earning RRSP contribution room.
Yeah.
And you can defer that, like claiming it as a deduction in an RSP contribution until a future year.
Yeah, which is where something like if you do have an employer plan, I would start that right away.
Yes.
I wouldn't wait until, okay, now I'm earning six figures, now I'm going to open it, right? And another plan that we didn't talk about, but I would also prioritize is an employee stock plan.
So what do young adults need to know about taxes?
Yeah, taxes get talked about a lot. I actually feel like it's a really common conversation that I hear a lot with my friends, with clients' kids and things like that. And really understanding the credits and deductions that you're eligible for and not leaving money on the table. One of our other financial advisors, he's awesome, I have to give him credit for it, is that everyone has to pay their bill to the CRA, but you should never leave a tip. So really making sure, it's one of my favorite things I've heard, but you really should make sure that you are claiming what you're able to. So some common deductions are things like your registered retirement savings plan contributions, your FHSA contributions, different like childcare expenses if you have kids already, or things like professional dues and things like that can help really bring down your tax bill. Other things like credits, so charitable donations. If you're charitable, if you're giving money, some companies have annual giving campaigns that can help with your tax bill as well. The other thing they should be looking at is things like their marginal tax rate versus your average tax rate.
Oh, people never understand
They don't, no.
Okay.
They get thrown around all the time. They get talked about. And really people go, I don't even know what that is. And so they're like, it doesn't really matter.
So teach us.
So your average tax rate is what tax do you pay average. So taxes are split into brackets. We have a progressive tax system here in Canada. And so depending on your income, up to a certain amount is taxed at this percentage, and then the next amount's at this next percentage. And provinces and federal are going to be slightly different.
Yeah, so the more you make in Canada, the higher the tax rate you pay on every new dollar earned after that tax bracket level.
Exactly. So that's your average when we look at what's the combined amount of tax that you're actually paying on your income, total dollar value divided by your income.
Okay, so average total amount of taxes divided by your income, that's your average tax rate.
Exactly.
Marginal tax rate
tax rate is going to be the amount that you pay on the next dollar above. So say you're sitting at the second tax bracket, your marginal tax rate will be whatever's in that next tax bracket that you're in. Yeah.
Great. So maybe I'm just making up numbers here, but let's say the first 20,000 is taxed at 10% and the next 20,000 is taxed at 20%, and the next 50,000 is taxed at 30%, blah, blah, blah.
So on.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that's how taxes work. So your marginal tax rate is used, that tends to be the one that you hear used the most often. That's not actually the percentage of tax you're paying on all the income that you earn.
No, and I can think of a real life example where people get confused on this, is they're going for a job promotion, or they're going to get a raise, or maybe they want to start a side hustle, start their own business. And they're like, well, maybe I don't want to earn more money, because if I earn more money, I'm just going to pay more tax. Well, you're only going to pay a higher tax rate on that extra amount of money, not on everything you've already earned.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where it's interesting when I talk to young adults and everything, is because they are chasing the next highest income, is then deductions become a larger conversation when we start to look at taxes.
And maxing out your RSP and maxing out your first-time home saver. Like you definitely, there's so many ways to reduce your tax bill. I love that. I don't mind paying taxes either, but I don't want to leave CRA a tip.
It's one of my favorite quotes I've heard. I can't take credit for it, but yeah, it's one of my favorite quotes I've heard.
Okay, what are some of the other things young adults need to be paying attention to?
Young adults really focusing on risk management. I find a lot of young adults, they think, I'm young, nothing bad is going to happen, especially if they don't have kids yet, if they don't have a house yet. They're like, I'm good, right? I earn money, mom and dad might still be there, I'm good, I have a safety net. But really, risk management should be starting young. The second you have an income, you have things, you have rent, whatever it is, you need to be looking at protecting yourself in different ways. The second you have investment accounts, you need to look at protecting yourself in certain ways. So there's legal documents, there's insurance, there's, lots of things that they should be doing.
Okay, and so insurance, typically, walk us through what a young adult may need insurance for when that comes into play.
Yeah, so again, that big package that you get when you start at your employer is normally going to have some insurance options. So things like medical insurance or extended medical in Canada, dental insurance.
Yes.
I can think of some examples where lots of people are like, well, we have free medical care in Canada.
Yeah.
Well, we kind of do. You pay a lot of taxes for it. And there is certain care that doesn't get covered in the event something happens. So for example, I tore my ACL a few years ago. Physiotherapy is not covered. Any types of medical devices that you might need, like fancy ice packs and things like that, crutches, braces, things like that. Your extended medical is what's going to step in and help you there. Right. So that can be really, really important. If you have things like ADHD or other things that require ongoing medication, your extended medical is going to be what helps step in to cover some of those costs so that it doesn't have that big financial burden on you.
Those are great examples, because the basic system doesn't cover that. Unless you're below a certain income level, then some of it may be covered.
Exactly.
How about life insurance, disability?
Yeah, life insurance. A lot of people are like, well, I don't have a house, I don't have kids, I don't need life insurance. But life insurance often your employer will have some level of it, and there's different amounts available, and there's different things that impact it. But really, life insurance is there in the event something happens to you. There are still costs associated with you passing away. Even
funeral expenses, credit card payment,
student loans, things like that, right? Who's going to pay for those things? So life insurance can be there. You can designate beneficiaries. And disability insurance and critical illness are ones that I think have become more of a conversation.
Yes.
But again, people think, I'm young, nothing's going to happen to me.
Right, but it could. And if you're young and you're living on your own, and you all of a sudden get an injury and are unable to work, you better make sure you've got some coverage so that you can still pay your bills. And the other thing on life insurance that I like is when you're young, if you can think ahead to, if you're planning on buying a home and having a family, it's better to start looking at life insurance earlier when you can guarantee you're insurable. And then setting that plan up, it's cheap. You can lock those prices in for your lifetime. But I mean, meet with an insurance advisor to make sure you've got the right coverage, and don't get overcovered.
You don't need to get overcovered. And that's one of the nice things with insurance is you can level it up as different things happen, whether it's you have kids all of a sudden, now you have a mortgage, things like that. You can increase your coverage. So you want to be mindful you're not overpaying, because that can put financial stress on you. The other one, so we talked about job loss and disability insurance, or something happens, you get hurt. The other important one is critical illness. So disability insurance will cover income loss in the event that you get hurt or sick or something like that. Critical illness is nice because it's a large lump sum payment.
Yes.
depending on the size of the policy. And it can be used for additional treatments. It can be used if you have to go out of country for treatments. You kind of have the discretion to use it. And it normally, you want to make sure it's covering the big three. So cancer, cardiac, and stroke.
Right. And I think critical illness, having that lump sum payment if you become ill, where you can take that and go get the immediate care you need, because in Canada, you might be on a wait list for a little while.
You might be on a wait list for a little while. And I think another important part when we talk about critical illness is, especially for young adults who have young kids, is there actually is options for critical illness in policies on your kids, because now dual income and everything's become so important for cost of living. If all of a sudden one of your kids were to get sick and one of you has to take some time off and things like that, that can be another avenue for some risk management there, so that it's not a financial devastation in addition with the family.
Yeah, and it ties in really well with the wealth building side of things. So if some unforeseen event happens and you don't have insurance to cover it, you are going to be tapping into any of your savings that you've accumulated, and you'll be starting all over again if you deplete that. Let's talk a little bit about legal documents.
Okay.
So a will. When do young adults need to have a will?
I think you should get a will the second there's any assets to speak of, like your RRSP, your tax-free savings account, your first-time home savers. All of those can have beneficiary designations, so they don't go through your will.
Right.
That being said, there's actually a lot of conversations now, especially as we see the rise in social media and influencers and things like that. There is a social assets or electronic assets that can need to be considered. So everyone should start a will. There's easy online platforms you can use if you don't have a complicated situation, but just starting that process of getting those legal documents in place so that your family knows what to do.
Yeah, and definitely when you have assets, non-registered account, a vehicle, a house, if you don't have a will, then your family has to apply to the courts.
It's a really big process when they're already in a really hard position.
Yeah, and it's not that difficult to do.
No, it's not.
So just go ahead and do it. Now let's talk about marriage agreements. So a lot of young adults, I don't know if young people are still getting married anymore. Are they just living together?
I think it's interesting. I had kind of a wave of friends that got married really young in their early 20s. And then now I kind of have that next wave of friends in their early 30s and stuff starting to get married. And I do have friends that still are very much like, let's go the marriage route. I want the legal paper. But lots are like, well, I'm living together, it works. Like cohabitation or common law is the same as far as the government's concerned.
Yeah.
And so lots aren't opting to do the big expensive wedding anymore because it's a huge financial burden. Yeah.
Smart. Put it for a down payment on a house.
Exactly. Yeah.
But if that marriage or that common law relationship, if you're living together and you split, there could be a division of assets.
Yeah.
So if one person brings in more in wealth than the other or net worth, it can get split. So they should pay attention to that. Now, I hear a lot of young people saying, oh, but don't you trust me?
Yeah.
We trust each other. What's your advice for them?
You know, same as insurance. You hope something bad doesn't happen, but it's there in case it does, right? Anybody that buys insurance isn't hoping their car breaks down or they get in a crash. They're not hoping their house burns down if they have house insurance. They're not hoping they get a critical illness. It's there in case the worst thing happens. It's an insurance policy.
Yeah.
And that's how it should be viewed as. I think Emma Neary, who was on a past episode, said it. Whether you like it or not, you have an agreement in place, but do you want to decide the agreement or do you want the government to decide it?
Yeah.
So I think that's a really important thing for people to be aware of is there is a legal standard already.
Yeah.
Are you okay with that? If you are, great. If you just want to split it right down the middle, go for it. If that's not the case, then sit down, have a conversation and view it from the point of let's protect each other and have a plan we're both comfortable with.
It.
Yeah.
So Cailyn, so far we've talked about paying yourself first, set up an automatic savings plan, get that money invested properly. The only way to really make significant wealth is investing in the markets, as long as it's suitable and you're well diversified. Watching your taxes, looking for all your tax credits so you can put money in your pocket. So when you get that refund, you can invest it as well, build your wealth. And protecting yourself with insurance and legal documents.
Yeah.
Is there anything that I haven't asked you that I should have?
I think really talking about like all of this stuff's great, but I think a lot of people, they get, especially the younger generation, get so wrapped up in that comparison culture of, well, what are my peers doing and everything. And oftentimes they won't listen to their parents. They won't listen to their grandparents.
My generation called it keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah, exactly. And so all of this knowledge is great. And it's so important to put into place, regardless of what your friends are doing, regardless of what the influencers are doing and everything. And you'll be in so much better of a position if you listen to the experts and really put some of these key pieces together to help build your wealth in the long term.
So where do they go to get started?
Yeah, so for many young investors, they might not necessarily be at the asset level where they need a full service financial advisor or wealth advisor, but some really good places to start. They can start with their parents' wealth advisor or their grandparents, depending on the family situation. They can go to their banks. Banks have the ability to open a lot of these accounts. They do have advisors that they can speak to. There are discount brokerages online that they can use and start to learn from, but making sure, the information's accurate. And then there's also some really great resources on The Wealthy Life from what I know.
Yeah, well, we're building that up. So thank you very much for that. Well, Cailyn, thanks for sharing your wisdom with us today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you to our audience. We absolutely love you and we appreciate your shares, your likes, your comments. What would you like us to cover next? Let us know at thewealthylife.com. As always, please seek independent professional advice before taking action. We are here to provide information to help you learn and ask the right questions to make smart decisions so you can live the wealthy life.